Good evening, Houdat family, and a special good evening to our Bayou Blitz family. I am Bob Rose. I'd like to be the first to welcome you to another Wednesday night edition of the Bayou Blitz broadcast. Joining me, as always, is my partner in crime and good friend, Brendan Boylan, and we are joined by a very good friend of ours and a familiar face to you, we'll call you seasoned New Orleans Saints fans, Mr. Jim Everett. How are you tonight, gentlemen?
Who dat? Who dat?
Houdat?
Hey, it's good to be on, you guys. I really appreciate it. Coming on the show with you guys and hearing all the stuff that you guys talk about. And know that we're kind of going through a tough spell, both sides of the nation. I'm telling you.
For you Saints for you younger Saints fans. First of all, Jim held most of the New Orleans Saints passing records before some guy named Breeze came along. Coincidentally, that Breeze guy broke all of Jim's records at Purdue also.
He keeps following me wherever he goes. I mean, he's like I'm going to say it's Hurricane Drew.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? I promise you, Jim, Brendan and I will not have Drew on next week because you're going to put on such a good show. He's going to be afraid to follow you this time.
I don't blame him. I seriously don't blame him. I know I'm a matter of fact, I'm heading back to Purdue this weekend for a little Big Ten. We got to celebrate. Hopefully, maybe sneaking out that first place. But Purdue was a heck of a place for him to come back and get that Rose Bowl and then all the stuff he's done in New Orleans. It made me even a bigger fan of New Orleans.
And you've always told me that you had some great years with the LA Rams, and if I were to guess, knowing you, that's kind of where your heart and soul is. But you've always said that you had some great memories of your years in New Orleans as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think anytime that you have a professional career and you get the opportunity to do the things that you do, and you never know when you're coming out being drafted. I mean, heck, I was drafted by Houston.
Mm-hmm.
That was the Oilers then, not the Texans. So
right.
Seasoned people will know that one. Do I get a discount being a seasoned person? That's what I want to know.
Hey, Jim, if you do, I should as well. So I don't know. We'll petition for that one.
I tell you, who's not getting the discount is Brendan over there. He's not. He's too young. He's way too young. But having a chance and then going to being traded out to Los Angeles to be a Ram for my first 8 years. Never my life's dream at the time. For all those other seasoned people that know this, the Rams and the 49ers and the Saints and Atlanta Falcons were all in the same division. So we got to see Saints twice a year. We got to experience, everything that New Orleans has to offer, even Atlanta and up in San Francisco, even though I might not want to partake in all that. But I don't know is then when they realigned the stuff and, New Orleans left the division, or did Rams leave, however they left it. Rivalry wasn't there, but being traded in inner rivalry was pretty wild, and to go back there and beat them a few times being in New Orleans, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better highlight reel.
Brandon? Jim, going back to some of those playing days in LA and seeing the team move to St. Louis and then move back and win a Super Bowl, how was the vibe out there for all those LA Rams fans that were waiting for the team to come back and then hoist the Lombardi Trophy?
Oh, they weren't here. Brandon, it was 21 years we had no professional football team or franchise in the Los Angeles general area. And even though after I was down in New Orleans, I moved back and played San Diego for a year, and that was whatever it was 2 years before the Rams had gone to St. Louis. And so we had no idea. I mean, we were kind of teased all the time, like, oh, yeah, you don't build us a new stadium in Jacksonville, we're going to move the Jacksonville Jaguars to L.A., So for a while, they'd be like, hey, we might get the Jags. Or any team that wanted a new stadium around the league was L.A. bait. So for those 21 years, we had no clue. And I lived here. It was kind of like, gosh, we really like the NFL. But that's why you could see a lot more 49er fans here, a lot more Charger fans, a lot more actually Seattle fans as well, and Raider fans. Then the Rams decided to come back in 2016. Now, that was like, what? Stan Kroenke going out and buying all the land where they used to race horses and building the 200 or 300 acre project out there. unconceivable because the people of Los Angeles or California weren't going to pay for a stadium, not like other states do. And so that was a wild thing to be, involved in. So heck, I was as much as a New Orleans fan as anybody else out there. And then all of a sudden, a team's coming jumping back, and it happens to be our team with horns. Never in our wildest dreams did we think that happened, but it was a wild time in LA for the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 years. And of course, then they proceed to do pretty well with McVay, and winning is a good thing.
Yeah, Jim, I know you followed both your teams very closely, as you just said, and I'm sure Brendan is going to follow this question up with the other side of the equation. But what's gone wrong with the LA Rams this year, in a nutshell, I guess?
Well, I think I could probably say some of the same things about the Saints that I say with the Rams as we could say about some of the other teams. That when you start losing some of your top personnel, however you lose them, especially let's say on the natural cause of injury, and when you have injuries, especially to your offensive linemen, and I think the Los Angeles Rams have had 10 different alignments of linemen and some guys that weren't even at training camp playing now and this and that. It makes it very difficult for a Matthew Stafford or any quarterback, Jameson or even Andy Dalton. When you're back there with we had a third string center at some point in time. Even the exchanges were problems, more or less. Who's blocking the guard or left tackle? Andrew Whitworth, he retires. Mm-hmm. Huge person as far as leadership, as far as playing ability. That's a huge void in itself. And then all of a sudden his backup, Noteboom, goes down on IR. When you start messing with the pieces in front of you, it really is tough. I know back in my days in Los Angeles, the last few years, we didn't have an offensive line either. So I know exactly what it feels like to be, running for your life all the time. And I see that. I see some of the injuries that hit New Orleans as well. And, those decisions, that's out of your control. And some years you go through, no one gets hurt. And all of a sudden you're in it winning 10, 11, 12 games. Some years you go through and all of a sudden, boom, first game out, some of your stars start going down. It makes a big difference. Talent helps you win. We were just going through an NFL meeting just today and talking about, what's familiar with the Super Bowl, the last 5 Super Bowl teams, and they've all had a blue chip quarterback. They've had 2 blue chip pass rushers. They've had a blue chip receiver. When you take a guy like, like some of the receivers that you've had down, Michael Thomas, and you've got the receiver issues you have. Of course, you've got a great receiver in Olaf, but man, when you lose that experience on the outside, that's huge in today's quarterback passing type offense. Kamara's doing a great job, but you just can't lose those pieces and think that you still have a full puzzle.
Mm.
Sticking with some of those issues, 12 years in the NFL for you, so you were bound to deal with some weird quarterback room controversies, right? Mm. And this is an odd one in New Orleans where Andy Dalton officially today is going to get the nod against the Rams that are coming from Dennis Allen today. But just last week, Jameis Winston in an interview came out and said, I'm not 100%. I'm not sure why people are saying that. I'm not in a position to play. And then you have fans that are really rallying behind Jameis to go out there and play and this, that, and the other. What does that do to a locker room when you have all that in the media going outside and then you got a little awkwardness in the inside when a guy takes your job?
Well, there's 2 parts to what you're asking about is first of all, let's take the injury component. The guys every guy that I know that played in the NFL are tough as nails. They wouldn't be there if they weren't. So can you play and you're hurt or injured? That's the hard part about it. If you're coming in the game and you're only 90%, is that better than your backup? If you're only 80%, is that better than your backup? And at some point in time, are you going to damage either yourself or the team? If Jameis is not healthy, he can't put himself in. If Matthew Stafford, his head's still in concussed, he can't go in. It's a detriment to the team and could be to yourself. So at that point, your backups, whoever that might be, and for right now it's Andy Dalton and Wolford. He's hurt, so Perkins may be playing this week. You never know. So you just have to take care of business. But I don't know any guy that didn't want to be on the field. I know back in our day, we would have concussions. We'd call it migraines, and we'd be out there the next series. That was just our expectation. But a little bit different these days. I love the rules. I love the evolution of the game. Protecting the guys that can't protect themselves. Don't crack back. Don't hit guys in the knees. Even though we're seeing it in 15-yard penalties and guys kicking out of games, there's just no place for that when you're talking about a pro. You got to take care of each other, hit each other hard, but let's not knock each other out of the game. But that was a philosophy when we played. Take us out of the game. And, I was overlooking the whole thing. Tom Brady has 100,000 yards. And I'm like, 100,000? I mean, there's no way we could have survived that. I think most of the guys during our era, if you made 160, 170, maybe even 200 games, that would be about the max because your body would have been broken. But it's a different game now. It's a good thing. I'm saying that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, to your point, you had over 34, almost 35,000 yards. And you have a litany of walking injuries now, and you were one of the best of your era.
Hey, that sounds like a first quarter these days, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, there's some new body parts, but thank God to modern medicine and some new hips and new backs, and I admire all the stuff. I just can't do it anymore. It's fun to watch though.
How is your health? Speaking of,
well, generally pretty good. I mean. As good as I could ever ask for after playing all the stuff. I still enjoy my grandkids and my own kids and do this and that. But, it's not perfect. But then again, when people get up to that season section of their lifetime, you don't have all the go, but you definitely have all the show. You know what I
mean? Listen. A position that you're very familiar with, quarterback issues. LA went out and aggressively got their guy in Stafford last year. Do you see the Saints needing to do the same kind of thing? And if so, how do you see it playing out?
Well, I think they were very fortunate to get a guy like Matthew Stafford. Rarely do you see a quarterback come in from another system and have the success and go all the way. I think him and Tom Brady was kind of like a little trend. Like, let's go get our older guy, let's bring him in, and then let's win that Super Bowl. Tom did it. Matthew Stafford did it. Then they were looking at, well, hey, maybe Carson Wentz will do it. I don't think that worked out. Or, maybe Jameis can do it. That hasn't worked out so far. I think that there's a couple components that you have to do if you're a general manager and you're doing that. You pretty much have to commit to the style of the person you're bringing into. Matthew Stafford fit the style. Tom Brady brought his style, even had Gronk with him. So I think you have to have parts. I don't think you can just bring a guy in and say, hey, this is it, and this is all you got to work with. I think if you're bringing a guy in and you have some all-star talent like OBJ and Cooper Kupp and Michael Thomas is healthy, and you've got some different things like that going on. That's a different scenario. But I don't think you can just bring him in and have rookie wide receivers. We see what happens with the talented Aaron Rodgers up in Green Bay. I mean, they're now just starting to hit stride. You have a lot of adjustments to make, and to do that with a rookie or guys that are getting separation is very difficult.
Jim, the Saints.
In fact, when I can further on that. When I came to New Orleans, we had a guy there named Quinn Early, and I just had lunch with him the other day down in Oceanside, and we were sitting there talking about it. And I think he had like 30, 40 catches a year before I showed up, and all of a sudden he's 80-plus year catch guy. That type of talent, maybe it's undiscovered, but you need those types of talent to have success. You can't come there with guys that are going to be 30, 40 catch guys and expect the quarterback that you bring in to be any different. And I was very fortunate to have a Quinn Early there at that time, and a Wesley Walls.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, when you came to New Orleans, I'd say that they were in a similar spot to where they are now. They're in a little bit of an identity change, right? Because you had came in and the Dome Patrol days were just ending. And then you go to this New Orleans team and the Sean Payton, Drew Brees era is just ending. What similarities do you see from your Saints days to this team now? And what are some of those differences?
Well, that's a good question. I think every team kind of, and it's like life too. You go through cycles, and you're right. You mentioned the Dome Patrol. They were just dismantling the Dome Patrol when I was showing up,
Hmm.
and our offense was ranked in the top 10, and their defense. And I think that's what drove Jim Mora to the nut house was the fact that he wanted that defense, and then all of a sudden he wasn't getting it. And man, that was as frustrating as I've ever seen the man. I mean, we still scored a lot of points and did stuff, but we just we're batting 500 because we can't stop people, and that's just not a Jim Mora team. And I would say that to him, and he knows that. Um, all right, so when I see that, I see a better defense now with what the Saints have. The Saints are prepared on the defense. Maybe they have some injuries in the secondary and that, but I see a better defense there that's capable of supporting. They just need offensive support. They've got guys there. I just think there's some injuries as well on the offensive side, especially in specialty positions, that has really hurt this team. And I think once they could all come together, I think it's a better team than their record, and I think they'll have a better second half than first half, especially if they can get healthy. But yeah, the quarterback position, I think Andy's holding it down. There's a stretch in there that was unfortunate in that one game. He had a few turnovers at the half. One of them wasn't his fault, but again, we had another young receiver, and it's just unfortunate those things happen. I think I think Denver's record, for example, if they had an offense that could have been a little bit more productive, I think Denver's in the winning side of the things right now. They're a better team. You've got a good defense, and I think that's what the Rams are going to be worried about on Sunday.
Now, it's interesting the positivity that you're spitting for the Saints, and I think you're somehow managing to talk some of our Houdat family away from the Crescent City connection edge a little bit.
I don't know about that.
Well, let's hope so. Anyway, because some of them are our viewers. We hate to lose them.
If they go over the edge, they're not going to say who dat.
Right. You have to assume that Sean McVay is safe, even though the Rams are having a rough season. Do you think Dennis Allen's job is secure in New Orleans?
I don't think anybody, any NFL's coach is solid. Anyway, I mean, I really think that they might have a different level, but I think, and that was one thing. And let's just take John Gruden for example. He was in the booth doing Monday Night Football and making $10 million a year. And when he came back and coached the Raiders, and that whole debacle is its own thing. But I just want to say the decision about coming back, I question. And the reason being, here you're making a good living, you're having a chance to be with your family. Yeah, you get the breakdown film. Yeah, you get to talk about it, but you don't get the pressures of the NFL. And I think he forgot what that was all about. The pressures of the NFL are huge. Weekly, because you're only as good as you are weekly. And that's why I look at this thing as I don't give up on teams. We've still got, what's this, week 11? We've still got 7 weeks left in the season. There's a long time. I remember there was a season, I think it was 86 or 87. We came back and won 5 of our last 7. Did that get us into the playoffs? We had a strike year that year, and so. But anyway, did that get us into playoffs? No, it didn't get us into playoffs. But what that did is brought us momentum to that next year. So when you're a professional, when you're the guy out there blocking, not the fan who wants to have the hardware trophy this year, but when you're the professional out there working, one of your jobs is to improve every week because you want to continue your streak of playing for many years to come, and that just doesn't come. It doesn't make a difference if your team is, 0-11 or 11-0. You want to put out your best film possible. You want to do the best thing you can so that when the next year you come and they bring in a supplement of guys, first of all, they're not replacing you, and the second of all is when those guys come in there, you're going to be even better. And so that's the way I look at it. So I look at the season right now as 0-0, and we're taking it one step at a time. I'm not really worried about my coach's job because he's got a job to do. If he's not leading the team, well, that's a decision for management. The owners make those decisions. Is it different than Sean Payton? Absolutely, it's different. But we all knew it would be different than Sean Payton. Does he have Drew Brees in there? No, he didn't. So we knew it was going to be different. We think things would be different with Jameis. Yeah, but is he doing some of the same stuff as he was in Tampa? Yeah, he is. And so and then you have injuries too. So I'm not surprised with Andy Dalton. He calms things down, and it's not exciting. He wasn't that exciting in Cincinnati. That's why he's not there. So, I just think that personally do what you can, get Hill involved, use Kamara more often. I mean, Kamara is a game changer. And when the black and gold decide that Kamara, we want to have him take over the game, well, let's set it up for him to take over the game. And that's how I look at it. There's talent you want to give the ball. Olave is good. He's still young, but he's making plays. He's sitting down. He's smart. He knows when to run when it's man. He knows when to shut it down when it's zone. And I like his play. Will he be better 2 or 3 years? Sure. But he's doing the best he can now. And he's pretty dang good at it.
Good point.
Alvin Kamara has only had 11 and 13 touches in the last 2 games. That's been a big concern of mine in the New Orleans offense.
That's exactly why I brought it up, Brendan.
Yeah.
Because the last 2 games, I'm pretty frustrated watching it.
Well, I haven't ran the numbers on Taysom Hill, but I know in my head one of those games was 2 offensive touches for Taysom Hill. I don't know about last week. But talking about getting playmakers involved, 3. Thanks, Bob. Yeah. So that's 5 in 2 games. I don't know. I'm not really
real quick. Can I tell you this? I have Taysom, and you can line him up at quarterback or tight end. I've had him in my lineup as a tight end. Okay, so yeah, please Taysom. Let's get some touches. Let's get some. You're good. Let's get creative. Hey, we've got some things going. Let's be creative. I don't understand why we can't just open this thing up. Get some Taysom, some looks and some of the razzle dazzle things. What we got to lose? More Taysom, please.
It's a very vanilla offense. It's almost as if it's scared play calling. But it doesn't sound like you're reading my fantasy football articles, Jim. Because if you were, you could have read, and I could have told you not to start Taysom the last couple of weeks. So
I've read that. I've read it, but I didn't believe it because I still think there's a breakout. There's an automatic touchdown there in that man every week. Come on.
He's the definition of touchdown or bust. I'm with you because he's on my roster. I haven't started him lately, but it is extremely frustrating with the Saints offense right now. But you highlighted Quit early.
I got Kelsey in my other league, so I cannot start him.
No, exactly. You're sitting pretty there.
You're fine. You mentioned Quit early earlier. You highlighted him. Back in your day, there wasn't really an Alvin Kamara type of running back. Roger Craig is the only one that really pops to mind. That would be a similar comparison. And when you talk about guys like Taysom Hill, who are so versatile, Cordell Stewart, obviously is another one that comes to mind. Was there anyone on your teams, whether it was in LA or in New Orleans or in San Diego, that was just a super versatile weapon that you felt could easily play one of these roles today?
I don't know. I think that's one of the things that we're seeing from the running back position as we talk about evolution. I mean, back in our day, you even mentioned Roger Craig. Yeah, he had great hands, but I'm telling you, I saw the man come back 2 weeks. He had knee surgery. We thought he wasn't going to play. All right, and all of a sudden he's out there in warm-ups, and we're like, dude, he just had his knee scoped, and he's playing. He ran for 222 or 224 against his. And he ran people over. So he wasn't like the elusive Barry Sanders, you can't touch me guys, but I don't know about the hands of Barry Sanders, that his moves were good. I don't know. I think that's why you're seeing the running back and the 11-man offense and spreading things out. You're not seeing the Eric Dickerson type. You see a few guys like Derrick Henry with Tennessee that's going to be committed to the run. You got San Francisco, who's got the whole stable of runners in there, but they've got Christian McCaffrey now too. It's like, so I don't know if there's a guy like Kamara. I mean, the closest guy I would see would be Dalvin Cook, maybe, but he's current, and so the elusive, be able to catch, be able to come out of the backfield, be able to block, and that was the thing that I'm noticing now too is you want these guys that can do all these moves and all these catch the ball, but you got to realize you got to be able to pass protect too, and that's where I think the Rams have been running into some real trouble. You were getting 2 of the 3. They can run, they can catch, they can't pass block, or they can catch and block, but they can't run. So it's like it's you're asking a lot more of the position these days, and that's why I think you're seeing multiple guys at that position rather than the Derrick Henrys of the world, but they're committed to the run, and that offensive style is different.
Bayou Blitz family, Jim, Brandon, and myself came to an agreement before the show that we weren't going to spend the whole hour singing "Woe is me" for the Rams or "Woe is me" for the Saints. So we're going to give like another 4 or 5 minutes of the current state of each team before we're going to have a lot of fun in the last half hour. So my last question to you, Jim, as far as Sunday's preview goes, you already kind of mentioned how you would attack the Rams if you were the Saints offense. If you were the Rams offense, how would you attack this Saints defense as you've seen them this year?
Now that's a great question, because the matchup here of the week that I think New Orleans has such advantages is their front four against the Rams blocking the blockers. I think somehow the Rams are going to have to mix things up. They like to do a lot of zone running, and when you do that, you've got two guys pushing one, but we haven't been getting just zone runs, and that's why you're seeing more of the powers, more of the counters, and where someone's pulling and you're knocking guys off. That's actually what I would do against New Orleans. I just don't know if it's in the Rams' repertoire to do those things, especially with offensive linemen you don't have a lot of faith in, maybe a lot of experience, a lot of practice. So what I'm seeing from the Rams offensive line is, let's keep it simple. Very similar to what I'm seeing from the Saints offense. Let's keep it simple. Almost to the simple part that it's too simple, too predictable. And so what I would encourage the Saints offense to do is, get outside the box and ask more of people. I know they're trying to keep it simple for the rookie and everything, but we've got to push outside. We're going into week 11. This is a time where people can start expanding, and by doing that, you start raising expectations. Not only are you to do the normal stuff, but we're going to expect you to do a double reverse. We're going to expect you to do this. We're going to expect you to know a counter. We're going to motion to tie it in with Hill and bring him back and wham the nose. Just change things up so the defense, before they can just go straight up field, they got to look left and right and see if they're going to get whammed or countered or whatever it's going to be. The Rams don't do that, and that's why I think that the Saints are going to pin their ears back, and they'll be all over. Probably Perkins is who's going to be. They're probably going to put a mobile quarterback in if Wolford can't go. Maybe I heard rumors that Stafford's back, so maybe he's going to be up. But I'm telling you, that ball's going to be out there quick because they're going to be coming hard.
Sticking with that thought, Cooper Kupp goes to IR today for the Rams, which is a huge blow. You've watched the Rams a lot more than some of our listeners have this season. Who's one guy on that offense that you circle as an X factor for the Rams headed into Week 11? A guy that Saints fans should really look out for.
I think at that point, they'll have Skoranek in there. We'll probably Higbee. We really haven't been using Higbee as much this year. I think that once you take the receivers in the Rams package, let me set this right. They're more like a hybrid, especially the slot guys. So they're involved in the blocking game. They're involved in the jet sweeps and all these utility type roles. And Cooper Kupp, for being the size he is, plays much bigger. So does Skoranek. So I would believe that Skoranek would be the guy that would be inside. On the outside, Van Jefferson he's ready to go. You got Robinson on the outside. I think we're expecting big things from Robinson. He's a big guy. He just hasn't played big. And that's been the knock on him is like, you have all the talent in the world, but we want to see you dominate. And he has receivers he's getting 4 or 5 inches over the top of, and he's playing the same size they are. So we'd like to see that. I mean, those are the type of things. If Allen Robinson can say, hey, okay, I need to step up. If he does that, I think he can be a factor. If he continues to play second fiddle like he was with Cooper, maybe it's Van Jefferson.
Well, I'll say this, guys in the chat, drop some questions if you have any. We're so happy that Jim Everett's joining us here this evening. Got about 30 more minutes on the show. So what does that mean, Bob? We're going from the woe is me, depressed Rams and Saints fans to a little bit more upbeat and fun, right?
Hey, Bob, this is your last chance for a eulogy. Come on.
No, man, I'm not going to do a eulogy. You know what I am going to start off with, and we're gonna take strolls down memory lane.
Hey Bob, wait before you start. That jersey behind your head back there, it just is impressive. Yeah, that's 17, by the way. I want you to know, people won't realize why I was 17 with the Sage. It was March 17th was the day I got traded, and so that was significant. It probably helped that Wade Wilson was also number 11 at the time and the returning starter, but I want to be respectful. But the 17th was the reason why I got that number.
Well, our boy Jeffrey Westfall is to thank for that jersey, and if we're gonna take a trip down memory lane, this one too.
Love it.
And I have it for all you guys because I was a kid. I had my Jim Everett shrine of football cards and everything like that. One of these days I'll get my get your address and I have to send you a couple things.
I'm telling you, when we had all the time that everyone was at home and they had to keep themselves away from everybody during the whole COVID thing and all the issues. The card business just went through the roof. I'm telling you, I had fan letters. It started to be like play days again. I'm like, what the heck? Am I getting 30, 50, 70 a week? I'm like, where is this all coming from? But it was the whole card thing resurrecting during the pandemic. It was amazing.
I was going to say, I read an article that you did, or an interview that you did earlier this week, maybe last week, with Sports Collectors Digest, just kind of breaking down exactly what you're talking about with the card game just booming. And as an avid collector myself, it's been a weird past couple years. But one thing that I noticed in that interview, and I got to pull it up because I got to get these numbers right.
700.
Yeah, you have 762 cards. Different cards of yourself according to official calculation.
Wow.
You said you probably have every single one of them.
You're right. Everyone that the card maker would send us whole sets of them, or at least they were back in the day. Nowadays, I'm not sure if that's the same protocol, but I have original sets of just about every card deck that's in, and someday I'll put those out there. But for right now, they're still in the plastic wrapper in a box and safekeeping. So, it's I think they're still rated 10.
Wow. I feel pretty pathetic with my 24 Jim Everett cards and my 26 Quinn Early card. Yeah, Quinn's got 2 on you. I'm sorry, he does.
I love him. He can have. Matter of fact, I'm tell you what Quinn Early meant to me is my son is named Quinn. Mm-hmm. So that's the type of relationship that we have. I mean, I just felt so good about him. I love being in New Orleans. I still love the city. I don't get there as often as I should, but just the way the fans are in New Orleans, and I know that the team is is struggling right now, but there's no better fan base in America. There's ones that maybe want to try to emulate it, but even Atlanta can't even try to emulate it right. So New Orleans got something special, and the whole fan base, they make the players feel good. And I just love how they support their team.
And folks, we are going to get a show with Quinn Early and Jim Everett on together, and I promise you, that we won't. Brendan and I will not have a show that will make you laugh harder than when we get these two together. Quinn, just like yourself, Jim, has an extremely busy schedule, but we're going to get you together.
Oh, hey, wait! I got something for you right here. I keep it right here. Check this out. Now, this is a game ball. You guys see that?
Yep.
Hope you guys can present it. But it was back in '89. And that was with Flipper. Talking about receivers. And that was when Flipper set the record, the NFL record for most yards in a single game. And guess who got the game ball? Right here.
Flipper, eat your heart out.
So someday I told Flipper, I'm gonna present this with you to the guy who really deserves the game ball. But you brought up my favorite receivers, and I'm like, yeah, I'd love to do a show with Quinn Early. I'd love doing shows with Flipper Anderson too. But collector's items are fun stuff, guys.
Listen, I got to ask. after you got traded to the Saints, and like you said, Rams and Saints were NFC West rivals forever. How and be honest, did you get a little bit extra geeked when you faced the Rams those first couple times in a Saints uniform?
Okay. All right. Before I answer that, do you think Kirk Cousins, when he took his Minnesota Vikings and they just beat, or a little while ago before the Bills game, but when they went back and beat the Commanders, did you see Kirk Cousins on the airplane after they beat the Commanders?
Yes, sir.
You see him wearing all the gold and all, he was all in his Kirky thuggery stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's something different. I mean, it's still to this day, if you have an opportunity to play against the team that didn't believe in you, however it might be, you can look at it as, let's take Lamar Jackson. He had 32 teams that didn't pick Lamar Jackson. Do you think he doesn't take pride in trying to beat each one of those? Now, if Baltimore decides not to come up with the contract language and Lamar ends up playing for some other team, when he comes back and plays Baltimore, don't you think he's going to be a little extra motivated? Mm-hmm. So I'm just bringing that into today's world. Hell yeah, when I went back and played the Rams, I wanted to make it. And I was pointing, and Jackie Slater and I talked about this too, because we had a slot corner that I always thought was always getting picked on. There was times during the game, when the first year we come back, I'd point right at Robert. I'd point right at him because I'm going to throw right at him. And I was telling him, I'm going to throw at you. And Robert Bailey and I mean, it was some funny stuff afterwards, but the guys, and yeah, you take it personal, and yeah, they didn't believe in you, and yeah, you take the blame as the quarterback or the head coach or whatever, and yeah, you think Jameis wouldn't want to go back to Tampa Bay and kick their butt? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does. I mean, he's extra motivated for that. So every athlete, when they say, oh yeah, this is another game, don't believe a word they're saying.
Got it.
Take a question from one of our viewers. This comes from John Butler. Jim, if you went 5 wide with all the guys you played with, who would be your 5 receivers?
Bob, Brendan, John. Let's see. Who else would I go with? I'd probably go with Sam Farmer. Now, I don't think I got one more. I'd probably go with Jordan, who's the beat reporter for the beat reporter of the Ram. Now, I don't know if any 5 of you can catch, but you'd be 5 fun people to hang around. I'm telling you that. So I don't know if I'm answering your question right, but I love the media guys, and you're my 5 wide.
You know what? I am privileged, and yeah, I could still get. They say the hands are the first to go, and mine have been. I dropped a plate earlier this evening. I don't think I got my 4.4 speed anymore. If I do, I only got it once, so I got one route in me.
One route.
One route.
We'll just put you on the hitches. We'll make sure that John goes deep. We'll send him deep every route. Just wear his ass out. Brendan, you're young. We're going to have you do option routes.
All right. My whopping 5'1", 40 times gonna really shine with those option routes, I promise.
Hey, well, we better get some age defense against us because we're in trouble already. I don't know the question to be seriously on that. What era are we talking about? I mean, if I'm talking about 5 receivers of all time, Jerry Rice is going to be in there for sure. Chris Carter, probably. He was making one-hand catches before the gloves and all that stuff. Randy Moss is probably going to be around there. I'd still like Henry Ellard. Probably have to throw Quinn early in there because I just trust him.
John gave you a little bit more leeway than I did. I was going to do a quick fire with you and ask you pick one wide receiver, Ellard, Flipper, or Quinn. But I know you ain't going to do it.
No, I was not going to do it. I'd just tell them all, hell, I'm taking Jerry Rice. See you guys later. And they would say, all right, Joe Montana. I'm telling you, that's how it'd go down.
I do want to ask you this. You played a lot of games against the New Orleans Saints and against that Dome Patrol defense. How would you guys prepare for them?
And there wasn't a weak spot about it, between, the Dome Patrol gets all the credit. You still got Frank Warren up front. Mm-hmm. You got They're playing that three bigs up front, and then their linebackers are just screaming around. But oh Lord, it was if you tried to turn the line to Swilling, then Jackson's on you, and he's always trying to time my snap counts, and then you say, all right, well let's do some counters in the middle and try to get Sam Mills. And I never forget one time. Might not be answering your question specifically, but we had a route where both the guard and tackle would pull, and Sam's just a little guy, right? I mean, so all of a sudden the guard goes by and he kicks out, and the tackle pulls up, and he said he thought Sam Mills disappeared, like fell into a rabbit hole, and then all of a sudden he pops back up and makes the tackle right behind the tackle that was supposed to block him. And that was the way Sam played. He played so low, and he understood his leverage, and he understood, he was like a running back. He was like an Alvin Kamara at the time, but playing middle linebackers. He was so shifty. But then he had to be, because he wasn't going to, bulk up on you. How you prepared for him is you just knew you were going to have to take hits, and you try to keep Swilling off you and force Jackson and some other guys to play through it, and hopefully you can get them in some man coverage. That's what we tried to do, is we wanted to get to Toy Cook and all those guys in the backfield. We wanted to get that. And in that game, and I just showed you that ball, we couldn't get to them because they were getting to me too quick. I mean, I think we had 6 sacks. How eventually we got to the secondary was we made them pass rush so much they got tired. And once they were tired, then at least we could slow them down, and now I could start picking around it and stuff there. But before they were tired, when they were fresh and they're doing 3 and outs on us all the time, it was impossible. But we just had to keep them on the field, and that's what I see this defense doing now with the Saints. And I'll bring it back to present. Is they're on the field too darn much. Their offense needs to keep the ball, needs to keep them so they can get in there and be fresh and get after the defense. You can't be fresh and get after an offense, when you're on the field all day long. And that's what's happening with this current thing. And that's what the Dome Patrol was all about. Was their offense with Bobby Hebert wasn't anything special. The running backs were good, but they would do just enough to keep you on the field in the game, and the defense would keep the score low, and their offense would squeak out their win. If they had any bit of firepower on that offense, you would have had Super Bowls after whatever, because that defense was Super Bowl caliber, no doubt.
Well, hey, Jim, you deserved that game ball then, because you guys literally played rope-a-dope, and you let them beat the hell out of you until they got tired, like George Foreman did to Muhammad Ali in Africa.
That wasn't a strategy. We kind of backed into that strategy. You realize and when you've got to score 14 points in 4 minutes and 1 second to try to tie the game, that's kind of a late time strategy. But that's just how it kind of worked out. And then once we got in the overtime, they were like, oh, good, they're worn out. Let's get the ball. And we got it. So that was one thing that brings us into a good discussion, is the overtime rules. I think they're getting it right in the playoffs, because I see each team should have an opportunity at least to score. The idea right now where someone can get the ball, score a touchdown, game over, and it just does not seem fair. I think college has it right. I think we have a better situation, but I wish we would just get that right for regular season games. And I understand there's time commitment and issues with that, with TV driving that unlimited college type score fest would be tough to for a limited time for TV. I get that.
Jim, I want to talk about your 1990 Pro Bowl. You look at that 1990 Pro Bowl roster, and I mean, it's just filled with incredible talent, right? You go from guys like Barry Sanders, some other quarterbacks with you were Jim Kelly, Warren Moon, Joe Montana, going back to the running backs, Thurman Thomas. The list goes on and on. I mean, there's boatloads of Hall of Famers on that 1990 Pro Bowl roster. What was that experience like for you?
I loved it. I mean, it was one of the experiences that I don't think I ever told you this, but the year before I went, I was actually invited the year before, but I was so pissed off that Joe Montana was voted in and I wasn't. And when they said, "Well, Joe's not going, so come over," I'm like, "No, I ain't coming." And I was like, I regret not going that day. I was so prideful. I was like, no, I should be in there. Anyways, I let the pride go. If they ever invite you to the Pro Bowl, go. But the next year I did go, and I'm telling you, it just changed my mind about so many things. So when you have a team, you've got different level of players. When you have the Pro Bowl, you see the best of the best, and you understand why, because they're not just complete players. They're focused. They're leaders. They're the stuff they talk about. There was not a lot of there's some fun and play and stuff like that, but just when you get a group of leaders like that together, it's like United Nations, man. It's like it's incredible, and you might have one or two guys that are there on pure athletic ability, but most of them are there because they're gamers and they understand the ins and out, how to raise their level, and that leadership was something that it was just oozing over there, and it really changed the way I looked at not only teams but my own team, and started to see like who can be leaders on this, no matter what stage they are, being a rookie or this and that. How can I help develop that within them to help be that type of person? And so that's what I tried to emulate and try to bring up whatever teams. I mean, I remember when I first came over to the Saints, we never heard about Quinn Early or this, that, and I just really wanted to give him, because I saw the individualism in him. The Wesley Walls, he wasn't even starting, just coming over. It was new, and I saw that in him, and Michael Haynes and Jim Dombrowski and Willie Rofe, and I'm like, we got some parts here, and so we just kept feeding that part. That's what I meant by going over there and get the experience. You don't know unless you know. And so when I got there, I was like, oh, wow, that's what it is. How can I help feed that within my own team? And seeing those types of guys already on the New Orleans Saints roster when I showed up, it was like, wow. And then I looked over across, like, where's Sam Mills and Pat Swilling and Ricky Jet? Oh, they retired. Dang it. Those were the guys. I'm like, So it's like, just miss. It's like, it's funny. Timing is funny. You always say, timing's everything. But to be able to go through a career and have everything lined up, like I say, a Tom Brady has, be able to have a great coach, be able to have great defenders, be able to have a good talent guy, be able to have this, and then be able to rotate it and keep it going. The stuff we're seeing in Tom Brady, and I bring that up, it's just so special. It's not common at all. You might get it a flash, you may get a sprinkle of it, but to get razzle dazzle like Tom has is so damn special. And I bring that up is that we're living in a time that we may never see something like this again. Even people were talking, I saw earlier, about Bill Belichick and his coaching, and it's all because of Tom Brady. No, it's not. No. Bill Belichick is, he just had the most wins or second on the list of most wins for coaching. He's a tremendous coach. He has been since the 80s, and his ability to organize men and motivate men, and is unseen to maybe some of the fans, but his ability to dissect an offense and put a defense out there. What he did to the 2018 Rams in the Super Bowl was just a masterpiece. And I went to that game, and everyone's like, oh, it's only 3-3 at halftime. I'm like, this is beautiful. Do you see what they're doing on defense and how they're countering this? And I go, I want to know what they're going to do to counter this. And when Josh Daniels came out and went regular offense and split 5 wide and put Gronk there, and so they made the linebackers get wide, and then all of a sudden they gashed and got a quick touchdown. I'm like, that's beautiful. That's strategy football. That was from Bill Belichick, and that was the stuff that we don't see with the Raiders right now. He's missing that.
Jim, you've talked about, I know, I think it was this past year anyway, you lost a great coach and a good friend in Ernie Zampese. And you've been fortunate to play with some great teammates. You've listed them throughout the night. You've had great coaches, Ernie, John Robinson, Jim Mora, and I'm never going to ask you which roster was better, because I think that's unfair to you and unfair to the guys you played with. But you look back on your career now, which locker room was closer? Your teams in LA or your teams in New Orleans?
Well, each team is different. Each team every year is a fingerprint, because you lose you lose a third of your roster, and so can't have the same characters. Even the guys, I can remember Timmy Terrell, who was one of our down the field guys that would break up the wedge. He was just great to be around. He still is. He lives in Chicago, a friend of mine. And, when he left, you lose that energy. And I'm not saying he's a starter, but I'm just saying when you talk about a team, when you talk about a plant, you got roots, leaves, you got everything all together. When you start losing pieces of it, you better bring other pieces in that can fulfill it. And it's not going to be exactly the same. No person's the same. No team's the same. So in that sense of it, the successful teams are the ones that you remember. And that's just the way our human nature is. I think probably I'll never forget our '89 team, just because of the success we had going to New York and winning in overtime in the playoffs. Stuff we're doing, having that game against New Orleans is setting records. I don't think that that's never been duplicated after 30 some years. Those types of things I don't think you ever forget. I think the time I went to New Orleans, I think that I will never forget those teams when we're playing like what I just talked about, the Wesley Walls, the Jim Dombrowskis, the Willie Rose, the character in that locker room, the Jim Mora, the Carl Smith, and I know he probably has mixed reviews. I love Carl Smith, and he's made a good living in the NFL. He's a smart individual, and I think got a lot of Bruce Arians, who was our tight ends coach, was even down there. I'll never forget at the end when Bruce was turned our offensive coordinator, we're sitting and me and Bruce are just developing game plans together off the cuff because we don't have Carl there. And, that was an interesting time, but great relationship with Bruce. So the ones you remember are the ones you win. And I think that goes with mostly any of the teams. I know the times you lose a lot, I think you get to the point where it's almost like going to a funeral. Wherever you go, like if you go around town, New Orleans, while they're losing, everyone's like, oh, the Saints, I don't want to talk about it. It's like a funeral, you don't want to address it.
Right.
But if everyone's winning, it's like going to a wedding. You want to go to those. There's a party, there's a celebration. Who's going to catch the flowers and get married next? And then, everything's good and it's a party. And I think everyone wants that. They're attracted to that, but that's not where sometimes your matchups aren't there. So you just got to win each individual battle. And that's what I would challenge New Orleans is I challenge the Rams right now is in this battle, the battle that's in front of you right in there. Who's going to step up? Are you going to be able to block that defensive line? Because right now we can't block anybody. Who's going to step up and take the job of Cooper Kupp because he was 33% of that offense? Who's going to throw the ball? Who's, is Andy Dalton going to, make sure he hold on to it, or is Kamara going to be able to get a chance to be featured more? All these different questions are there, and that's for the coaching staff to figure out. And it's a great game. I hope you guys can tell I love it, and it's still an important part of my life, and I love watching it.
Absolutely. You talked about how special of a city New Orleans is, how it has the best fan base in the entire NFL. Is there a moment to you that sticks out off the field, whether it's just walking down the streets of New Orleans, interactions with fans, some of that hospitality that just really stands out during your time down there?
Well, first of all, you got to realize I can look at New Orleans as an opponent, first of all. And so when they used to come out in California and show up and all wear all the black and gold and take over our stadium, I mean, it's like, dang, they travel pretty damn good too. It's like, so you can see that. But then when you go to the Dome, then it's like, you can't hear all the different stuff. And then, they're thumping you and their expectations. But then, when you can get a victory coming out of that Dome, that was kind of cool. But then when they got to be my home fans, then I really got the appreciation of their hospitality, their caring. I think they really want a good product at the time. It was Mr. Benson at the time, and I know he wanted to put a good product out there, but it was kind of missing here and there, and right now it's missing something here and there too, and everyone's trying to put a finger on exactly what it is, and. I'll go back and tell you this right now. Like we talked about earlier, Super Bowl teams usually have a blue chip quarterback, have a blue chip wide receiver. I don't think we're there in New Orleans right now. I think when we had the Drew Brees situation, and I constantly bring this up, there was a point in time when you have to make a jump to another quarterback, or at least keep one in the stable. Even like they're doing up in Green Bay, they got Love up there, and he's not playing, but he's kind of back there, maybe going to be playing at some point in time. Yeah, I think if part of a general manager's job is not only have your guy that's starting, but have somebody develop behind him. And I just don't see that in New Orleans. I don't see that with LA either. Maybe it's going to be Perkins that they're trying to develop in a little bit different style than what Matthew Stafford is, or Wolford is more of kind of just hold the game together. But quarterback development should be part of a program. Every program in the NFL should have a quarterback development program behind the deal. Now, in the Saints in 2018, when they moved up to get Davenport, I was sitting there and watching the draft going, God, they're going to get Lamar Jackson, right? Because they're moving back up in the draft, and they're going to do that. But they got Davenport, and he's a good player, and nothing against him at all. But I just thought strategic-wise, we need to develop somebody behind Drew Brees at that point in our development, because we knew Drew was getting near the end. But that what didn't happen. I thought second round we'd get something. I thought Atlanta's doing a good job of that right now with what they're doing. They brought Mariota in, and then they've got the young third-round pick behind him. So, I think there needs to be quarterback development rather than trying to look around the league and panic every year like the Colts did and try to bring in Matt Ryan. Even though I like Matt Ryan, I just don't know. Is Sam good? Sam, is he development type, or is he going to be really the guy? But if you really are having Super Bowl discussions, you need to have that blue chip quarterback, because this league is quarterback driven. You look at the Mahomes, you look at the Josh Allen, you look at the guys around the league that are being able to, even Geno Smith. I mean, that's kind of a lucky thing for Seattle. We'll see how long that goes, because once they take that running game, the whole game's on Geno Smith. Can he carry it? And I think that's what the defensive coordinators are going to try to press the last 7 games against Geno Smith.
Jim, I've caught your show a couple of times. You do, I believe it's every Sunday. You do an NFL post-game wrap-up. Pretty much cover all throughout the league. Tell our listeners, tell our viewers how they can follow and catch you every Sunday.
Well, come join on Twitter, where we had Serena and I, and actually Serena used to work for the Rams back in the day.
We can forgive her for that. It's okay.
Well, I'll tell you, there's some good talent around here. I'm telling you, there's some good media guys. Don't. But join us on Bally Sports. You can usually find us on Twitter. That's usually where I'm at. You can look under Bally Sports. You look up at Jim_Everett, or Jim_Everett. I think that's what I am. And join us on that. I have not chat with me during the week. I usually follow most of the people. I usually banter with people, and if you're lucky, I'll haze you. That's how it works on Twitter.
That's how I knew I made it.
I think it's funny. All these people are talking about all the different stuff about, what Twitter is and the owner of it and all this stuff. I'm like, you guys just take it with a grain of salt and roll with it, because that's all it is. Just have some fun. It's a way to connect, a way to hear some funny stuff and contribute in a way that maybe is uniquely you.
Listen, I made a major mistake back in 2020. I proposed a Rose Everett presidential ticket, and I don't think we did very hot. What I'd like to do now is make a public announcement, but I'm asking your permission. Can we do an Everett Rose ticket? I think we have a better chance if you're the lead candidate. And we got a couple-year jump on this thing now, so we can announce it tonight if you want.
I don't know if I want to join any one of the two parties as much as they bicker and fight. I don't know.
We're our own party. We're better than both of them.
Well, I think the American people hopefully will be able to join forces together and be able to get some stuff done rather than fight each other. So it's
fair enough.
Look forward to some peace for everybody.
There you have it. It's an official Everett Rose running ticket. Brendan Boylan, you're going to be our campaign manager, so if it goes wrong, we blame you.
Oh, Lord. You're really setting me up for success, Bob.
What? Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have to talk about commissions and some other things, but
he's already wanting to get paid under the table.
Right.
That worked perfect for our candidacy. We haven't even started. We're already corrupt. Oh my goodness.
Perfect. We'll get all the votes. Publicly corrupt. We'll get all the votes. Oh man.
I'll tell you what, I'll have to get down. Well, next time I get down to a New Orleans game, I'm going to have to look you guys up because it's been a few years since I've been down that way. I've been threatening to do it, but hopefully I get back there. I certainly miss it. I take my lovely gal down there and just enjoy every bit of New Orleans.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And we'd show you as good a time as we could. And yeah, I know for a fact you do vice versa for us. So,
absolutely.
Brendan, what do you got?
I'm gonna say, anytime you're in Charlotte, give me a ring. We'll show you a good time. I'm sure you're not over on the East Coast all that much.
But... Well, no, actually, Wesley Walls is over that way. So yeah. I was up in Virginia doing this autograph thing a little while ago, and Wesley drove up, and we got to hang out and play around. He always invited me to Charlotte to come down that way, but it's as soon as I can get over that way, I would love to do it. But that would be cool.
Definitely.
Yeah. Got to do
it. Now how about them Panthers? We haven't talked about all the hoopla that they've been going through. I mean, almost like I know that we're talking about the Bayou here, but I'm telling you that Carolina team were firing a head coach, getting rid of their best running back, and then all of a sudden winning some ball games and having PJ play pretty good has been pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and he's banged up, so they're going back to Baker this week. They signed the former Miami quarterback and King this week to the practice squad as an emergency guy. It's a weird thing over there, especially considering the draft compensation they've given up for Sam Darnold, who hasn't played at all this year. They get
he should be due back pretty soon. I would think that he's weeks away. Well, he had a shoulder, correct?
That's right. He's been back at practice. I think he was activated from IR or something along the lines. But they have a weird quarterback situation. The firing of the coach doesn't surprise me because, and Bob, you might be able to attest to this a little bit more being up in the Pittsburgh area, but David Tepper has not run this franchise particularly well. And he hasn't run the soccer team particularly well either, because they fired their head coach in their first season, like 6 weeks into the year. So the whole Tepper thing here in Charlotte has been an interesting experience. I'm a little thankful I don't have to cover that day in and day out.
I think, and this is just my opinion. I'd love to hear yours too, Jim. Tepper's a young executive, and I got to believe that there's just so many moving parts in trying to run any professional organization. The first thing you need to do is surround yourself with, and in the Carolina Panthers case, with good, experienced football people, and let the football people do their jobs.
I would think that would be the case, and it's tough when you're getting an inexperienced head coach like that to be that. I mean, you almost want more experience at the head coach position. So it'll be interesting to see how that all ferrets out in that division. I mean, your division is really up for grabs. I mean, I think the Bucs are making a move and doing things. The Carolina's just kind of doing what they're doing, and New Orleans is in the back, and yet to be making noise, but I think could make some noise if. I'll ask you guys a question. If it wasn't Allen coaching you guys, who would it be?
And that's the major question. That's what I keep telling people. I'm like, first of all, New Orleans has never been a franchise, even way back in the days of the revolving door head coaches. They were never a franchise that has fired a coach after 1 year. So I do find it hard to believe that they're going to move on from Dennis Allen. Just because of what you said, you look at Nathaniel Hackett and the Wolves are already after him in Denver after 1 year. Cliff Kingsbury, the Wolves might get him this year, but the Wolves have been after him for the last couple of years. McVay was under fire a couple of years, just 1 year after a Super Bowl berth, and they're all, people were already calling for his heads. You cannot be a good organization. A good NFL franchise, if you're going through coaches, like you change your socks. Just ask the Cleveland Browns. So,
you don't know the players for the system. If you constantly change the system, how do you keep the players they're going to be good in a certain position? Like, for example, you run a 3-4 defense, and you got certain body types, and all of a sudden you
Mhm.
bring a new coordinator in, they want to run a 4-3. Well, that eliminates a linebacker. You need another big guy, and you're
Yep.
constantly changing the different thing. And that's a simplification part because it's even more specific on offense. If you're changing, I mean, we're going to have an offense that has no fullback or an offense with a fullback, and all those things. It was funny you mentioned Kingsbury. I would love to see Eric Bieniemy have his chance with that Arizona talent.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I just think that you take that Kansas City style offense, and you have that with the Arizona Cardinals. I think that would really be something. I'm not suggesting that that's going to happen. I'm just thinking out loud.
Mhm.
If you look about head coach and you don't know which one you might want, New Orleans, if it wasn't Allen, you got to think about, okay, which kind of coach can you get?
Right.
Because I know if Sean Payton was to come back into coaching, let's say he decided to, and went somewhere and they gave a draft pick for him. I know for a fact he would want to be in a place that had stability at quarterback.
Yep.
He would overlook the talent, make sure it was young enough that he could continue to be successful. But he's not going to go to a franchise that doesn't have a franchise quarterback or some question marks here or there. I mean, it's like, why do that? I mean, I know Sean McVay took the LA job because there was a lot of young talent. They knew they were going to have Jeff Fisher with Jared Goff, that they could mold him and do some of the things that when they had Todd Gurley, a good runner. That wasn't a bad job to take. There's some bad jobs that coaches won't take. I don't know where New Orleans is on the good job, bad job is, but I do know they don't have a franchise quarterback, and that's going to be difficult to find good talent that wants that without a draft pick to draft one high.
Yep, that's it. And Brendan and I have talked about this many times. You're talking about a team in cap trouble. Mickey Loomis does a great job of kicking the can down the road, but still, no franchise quarterback, and currently no first-round draft pick to go get a franchise quarterback. So, where do you go? And I know you have thoughts on this too, Brendan.
I mean, honestly, I don't think the New Orleans job's very attractive at all at this point. I think if you were asking me before the season started, is New Orleans an attractive job? At that point, I would have said, yes, you have Jameis, he's healthy. You're going to have Mike Thomas healthy, Jarvis Landry. And injuries have derailed a lot of the season, and that's an excuse to an extent. But now you're seeing the team as a product on the field together. They don't look young. And let's face it, the Saints are not a very young football team, offensively or defensively. They don't have a franchise quarterback. And there's a lot of question marks surrounding the future of what was your superstar wide receiver just a few years ago. Not just health-wise, but whether or not he wants to be there. I mean,
I don't know if you guys ever had a turf toe or a toe injury or something like that. Trust me, you get pretty discouraged trying to move to the bathroom, for God's sakes. I mean, it hurts. So it's not something about his desire, but I'm just saying, if you're an athlete and you can't do something you love to do, you're like, it'll affect your whole psyche. So I get that from his point of view. He came out early and actually looked pretty good. It was until the toe injury, and I know that really set him back. And those are brutal. But you start seeing receivers get over 30 years old and they get those lower leg issues, and that's what it's hard to come back from. It really is. That's why you see all these receivers 23, 25, and they're just flying around like little gazelles and doing their things. But man, at 30, it's tough to fly around like that.
Well, and it's same for running backs, and unfortunately, Alvin Kamara is not getting any younger either. He's getting closer to that 30 threshold.
I'm an advocate that when how they have these 4 and 5 year contracts, I would be an advocate for the running back position to have a 3-year contract max.
Yeah.
Reason being is because I think by the time they get to their second contract, and if they were a first round pick, it's 5 years going on 6. The kid's 26, 27, and they're basically doing a contract that's going to take them like Ezekiel Elliott. If they would have had years 3 and another 3 and another 3, they would be into maybe their third contract, so they could phase down their third or fourth contract, whatever it is. But the running back position really has 2, and you see clubs balking at giving anyone in the second contract after 5 years any money. And it's unfortunate because the running backs do, from age 21 to 28, they're usually the beast, but that's usually their first contract.
Yeah, and you guys saw out there yourself firsthand with Gurley, and what happened to him, a rapid deterioration. I believe he was on his second for 1 or 2 years into that second contract when that happened too.
Well, and they drafted him in the 14th pick, I believe it was, and they knew he had a knee issue. He had that in college, and so they knew that was, a risk draft. So, that's one of the things they looked at in draft positions. And when you're a team and you're looking at who do I want to draft, sometimes you're drafting for that pro that can, project out 5 to 10 years. You're not just looking at what he did his senior year, because there's some guys that get like this guy had just a great year. Why didn't they drafted him? Well, they might be looking down saying, we don't think he can play another year without, getting all broken up, or maybe he had too many hits or whatever it might be. So the pros have to look on a different timeline than say, just last year and when they're looking at talent. So that's always surprises me in the draft.
Deion Sanders started the trend. We saw Jeff Saturday have some success. I'm very interested to see what happens out there. Would Jim Everett ever consider stepping on the sideline as an NFL coach?
I don't know about that. I don't know. I might want to go in the front office first, but I don't know about that weekend stuff. I love strategy. I wouldn't mind consulting. I don't know about the grind of the whole game and the pressure that they have. And I do love the sport, but I do respect the profession as well. What Jeff Saturday is doing is unprecedented. I'm rooting for him. His situation, and I don't know if everyone in New Orleans realizes this, but Jeff was a consultant with the Colts.
Yeah.
And so he had been there for a number of years. And then Frank Reich even asked him onto his staff. He couldn't commit for some family issues. So what I see here is I see someone very familiar with the organization. Jim Irsay believes in him, trusts him, talks to him, gets weekly reports from him. So it wasn't someone just coming from the outside and I'm just saying, okay, hey, Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders, you're going to run my team, or Deion, just run my team, and you don't know these guys. That wasn't the situation. So I think all the hoopla, I think you saw some hoopla from some of the coaches who were saying, hey, you're not respecting our profession, and I'm going to protect my guys that are going the right way, and I want you to elevate these guys. But I'm sure Irsay talked to them all. Jeff wasn't outside that far from the franchise, and probably not say probably. He's a good leader of men. He's got a spark to him. And sometimes when you're at the helm, when you're the general, sometimes motivation is more than half the battle. Getting the X's and O's right is a huge battle. But you got to be able to motivate men. And that was the job I see from NFL coaches that are different than college coaches is, college, you get them for 3 or 4 years and you can rinse and repeat and go back through your same lines. In college, you're with that same coach. Imagine listening to Bill Belichick for the last 10 years, 20 years. You think Tom Brady wasn't tired of probably hearing the same speech over and over again? I mean, you probably had to keep it fresh somehow. But I don't know. I don't think he changed his hoodie in 17 years, though.
Jim, I got to ask you this is, Bob brought up earlier 35,000 passing yards in your career, over 200 passing touchdowns. If you took your career and you inserted it into the modern game, where do you think those numbers would be?
Oh, Lord. Like what kind of multiplier would you put on it?
Essentially.
Well, you would probably get, I could guess, but you're probably going to get 3 or 4 more years of play, and then you'd probably get 1,000 or 1,500 year more yards in this type of format we have now. 17 games, they'll probably move to 18 games. That'll be another 500 yards. So I don't know. I mean, I could probably sit here and do the math and probably say, it could be a double, but I don't know, something like that. I know when I retired, I think I was the 11th leading quarterback in the league, or
yes, you
for
were.
yards, something like that, 12th or something like that. And I know the older guys before me were going like, yeah, but we only played 12 games.
Right.
We were about 6. So there's always something, there's always something to file some grievance with us old guys. So I ain't going to be that guy. Just let them keep doing what they're doing. I love what they're doing. I love the open game. I love the fact that they're trying to keep them safe. It's still a gladiator sport. There's going to be guys that get hurt, and that's unfortunate. I don't like to see the injuries where it's gore, but I do like to see good football. I love to see good strategy. I love the running game that they're this year is a record high yards per carry. I think we're at 4.5, which is leads the league of all time. And I think some of that's getting back to some of the defenses that we're seeing. They're getting lighter. They're more nickel defenses. They're more spread out zone stuff. Back when we played, we had to move people. Now it's more like, hey, let's play this fast game where Aaron Donald can be a 275 nose tackle. That wouldn't have lasted in our year because we had blown them out with 300-pound linemen or done stuff like that. So the game's changing, but I think it's revolving back to you're going to start seeing more traps again. You're going to start seeing more counters, more powers. And the running game you're seeing this year is getting record high because the answers the defense if they're trying to put more speed on the field to match ours. And the teams that are taking advantage of that are doing good with some of the RPO and some of the power running scheme that we're seeing.
Listen, I know you're not big into predictions, so I'm not going to ask you your prediction for this Sunday's game. But I will ask you this as a seasoned Saints fan. I tell people all the time, like, I don't hate Atlanta. I make fun of them. I poke fun at them. The team I hate is San Francisco. You got my back on that, right?
Well, sometimes when you hate something, there's a reason why you hate something. Is because you're jealous of something, and because they had some championships. And Atlanta doesn't have championships. It's like your brother over there. They're just like, we'll just go over here and beat each other and play around. We're good. But San Francisco had all those championships, so yeah, I'm jealous of that. And yeah, I'm pissed at them, and so they were, but the Rams just got their championship, this past year, and that was an exciting time for the city of Los Angeles. It really was. It was pretty big time. They're not the same team this year, obviously, going against the Saints. But the Saints also are kind of beat up. So, for me to try to predict this game as far as who's going to go off, I think the Saints defense, if they play up to their ability, I don't think the Rams can score. I just don't. Now, if Andy Dalton wants to give it away or they want to do all these different types of things, then I think the Saints can give the game away. But if the Saints defense plays like they can play, I don't see the Rams scoring.
That's even with Stafford if he's able to go.
I do. I do not think that they have time to stop this defensive line. Now, if we can gash them on some sort of bubble screen where we don't have to block, or there was a game I was watching against New Orleans where they optioned right off of on Cameron. They didn't even block him. Who was that? Kansas City? Who were you going to play? Anyways, they just optioned right off and didn't even block Cameron on the goal line. And the running back, maybe it was Miami, whatever it was, they ran right inside.
Baltimore. I know.
Yeah, it was Baltimore.
Yeah, it was Baltimore.
That was it. Was with Lamar. Okay, so I was trying to get my team. I know my offense is by scheme. Yeah, it was Baltimore. And all they did is just option him, and he had to freeze to respect Lamar. I thought, what a cool game this is. Where I really thought at one point in time Lamar was going to be the quarterback or the future quarterback for the Saints. And yeah, he's over there beating the butt. And I'm like, okay, that's how it goes. But that's Lamar's deal. He's in contract talks too. But that's one guy that every day he waits, I think his price goes up. Because the next quarterback, and they're all basing it off Deshaun Watson right now at $250 million, all guaranteed. And so, why would he not take that contract? Any new contract's going to be north of that. So the longer he waits, I think the more money he's going to make, unless, of course, he gets injured or something. But I would by far build my team around Lamar Jackson. And
Baltimore's not going to let him escape, are they?
No, I don't think so. And I think they'll get to a point where, they probably have to make it work on a cap. If they did it now, they would limit them to their playoff for this. So they probably said, yeah, we're gonna take care of you. Let's get through this cap year. Let's take care of this, and we'll do this so we can create cap for 2023. So if we have a good year this year, and what are they, 6-3 or whatever the record is right now?
Yeah.
They could easily be with one loss. I mean, all the close games that Baltimore's been in. So, I mean, I think they have a legitimate chance as any. I think Josh Allen with Buffalo is as good as they've been. Boy, he's been not that good in the fourth quarter, and that's when your quarterback has to be solid. And he's had some questions. You take Mahomes with Kansas City, I think you got Miami. The AFC is just loaded. Now the NFC is kind of like, well, who wants to take it? It's like you got the 49ers. They're kind of doing their thing, trying to figure out who they are, but how far can Jimmy Garoppolo take the 49ers? So you look at your blue chip quarterbacks. Who's the teams that are going to do it? Is Daniels a blue chip quarterback for the Giants? Is he gonna be it? But I don't know. I mean, is Dak Prescott going to have a receiver to throw to in Dallas? I thought for sure they would get one in free agency. They didn't. Maybe that's where OBJ lands. That's what I predict.
You know what? I could see that too. I think that's a great way to end the show. Listen, I could talk to you all night. You know that. But thank you, Jim, for staying with us even not only the full hour, but a little bit extra.
Oh, you bet, Bob. Anything for you, man. You're on my top 5 receivers. And go get Johnny there and Brendan. You guys, let's go play catch. Love it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And, folks, seriously, follow Jim Everett. Well, it doesn't matter whether you're a Ram fan or not. He'll talk to you. He's one of the most entertaining Twitter pages you will find. Jim, we got to do this again. I know we're going to get you on here with Quinn, but you're Bayou Blitz family, man. You are welcome every week if you want to pop in and say hello.
Hey, anytime I come on a show or my jersey's on the wall, I am there, Bob. Love you guys. Thanks for having me.
Love you too. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Jim.
You guys, thanks.
That was 12-year NFL veteran quarterback Jim Everett. Honestly, Bob, and you can vouch probably a lot better than me, probably one of the most underrated of his era.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, his era, remember, you're talking not only Hall of Famers, but among the greatest of all time with, at Montana, Elway, Kelly, Marino. Moon is in the Hall of Fame. Next to John Elway, Jim Everett was my favorite quarterback from that era. And I mean, he threw such a Jim Everett, followed very closely by Warren Moon. I just love to see those guys play. And this is coming from a Saints fan who watched the New Orleans defense get tortured every single week by Jim Everett, Henry Ellard, Flipper Anderson, and the guy, obviously, Bayou Blitz family, as you just saw. The guy's such a class act and such an entertaining guy to talk to off the field too. Even in retirement. He is good people. He is a great football mind, and he truly does love the city of New Orleans and the New Orleans Saints fans.
Absolutely. He expressed that a couple times on the show, how much he appreciated even appreciated them more after playing against them for so many years, which I think is a really unique perspective as well. Loved having Jim on the show. Just to back up Bob's point again, I don't really want to pull up that whole list again because it was super long, but you go back and you look at all the guys on that Pro Bowl roster in 1990 that included Jim Everett and the amount of Hall of Famers at quarterback, running back, offensive line. I mean, everywhere. And Jim was among that list. I know he gets a little, I don't want to say forgotten about, but he gets caught in that mix of weird Saints years right after the Dome Patrol and then before the 2000 revival of the team, if you will, with Aaron Brooks and that special season. And then, of course, Drew just a couple years later. But Jim held a lot of records. I said before we got on the show that my first Saints memories was of Jim Everett at quarterback. So very, very fortunate to have him join us for not just the hour, but gave you guys 20 minutes worth of overtime, full overtime session. With Jim, we will definitely have him back. Like you said with Quinn earlier, that would be a really fun because Quinn has confirmed he will be on. It's just a matter of working some schedules around because he's a busy guy. We're all busy guys.
These guys, these retired NFL players, people don't realize how many commitments and family. I mean, Jim, for example, and I'll use him since we just had him on. Played in the NFL for 12 years, like Brendan said, and that's a 24/7 job. 365 days a year. People don't realize, if you're a player or a coach, how much time you spend away from your family, how much your family really has to go on the back burner, for to be an NFL star. And really not even you don't even have to be a star. You have to just make that kind of sacrifice. And I'm not going to say that they have to make up for lost time in retirement, but they want to make up for lost time. They want to spend time, with their, family members, their kids, their grandkids once they get to that stage of life. And not to mention the other projects that they get involved in. And I know for a fact Jim is extremely busy. Quinn is extremely busy. We've had Tyrone Hughes, Willie Whitehead on with us, in the last handful of weeks. You guys have heard how busy they are. I'm just so grateful that we have been able to forge a friendship with them, and that they are willing and able to come on to our show, not only share some memories, but they all have a great pulse for this New Orleans Saints team, and such great football minds, to lend to what's going on with today's Saints, what's going on in today's game from their viewpoint.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. Great football minds, every single guest we've had, and some of these guests that we'll have lined up over the next couple of weeks as well.
Oh, yeah.
And with that, I do want to remind you guys, I will be gone. I'll be absent from the pregame show this Sunday. So Bob and
I forgot.
Oh, there you go. Bob and I are going to flip roles, as I had it solo last week. I think Bob's going to probably be able to scoop Sean in somebody, but I will be out celebrating. Shout out to my girlfriend, Katie, going to celebrate her getting her master's degree. So we're going to go have a good time and celebrate that, because it's well-deserved, because I can't do it. Let's be honest. I couldn't go get my master's degree after seeing how difficult that was. No, thank you.
Listen, I can't toast alcohol to you, but I could toast a late night coffee to you, Katie. Congratulations, and congratulations to you, Brendan.
Yeah, appreciate that. We appreciate every single one of you guys. Make sure you follow us over at the Bayou Blitz Pod, or just Bayou Blitz Pod on Twitter. Bob, where can everybody follow you on the World Wide Web? Because apparently you're an interesting follow.
I didn't know that, but thank you. And I appreciate you dropping the Bayou Blitz Twitter handle. I don't have to remember it tonight. Folks, you can follow me on Facebook, Bob Rose. I'm over on Twitter at BobbyR2613. Obviously, as I hope you know, all of our works can be followed on the Saints News Network page, at Saints News on Twitter. And obviously, as you know, we do all the work for the SI.com New Orleans Saints team page. Folks that do follow our Bayou Blitz Facebook page and give support to our show, thank you guys so much. It is because of you that we are able to hopefully put out a product that you enjoy, to bring in great guys like Jim Everett and all the other guests that we have had on, and give you guys an open forum to share your thoughts, and hopefully provide entertainment. So thank you, and much love for everything that you've done for us so far.
Very well said. For myself, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BT Boylan. We're really excited for some things we got coming up over the next couple weeks, regardless of the win-loss column for the New Orleans Saints. So we hope we put on an entertaining show nonetheless, and an informative.
We tried to be therapeutic tonight. I hope it helped, Who Dat Nation.
I was going to say, I didn't say it at the beginning of the show, but I'll say it now, is we brought Jim in because, let's just face it, nobody wanted to relive Sunday. And Bob was there. Bob was in the press box, and it was cold, and it probably stunk weather-wise. And not going to lie, Bob, it's been hard to try to write anything about the game that's positive. But nonetheless, we hope that you guys enjoyed tonight's show. You know how to follow Bob. You know how to follow me. So I won't see you guys on Sunday. Bob will.
I sure will.
Whichever way I got a point. Bob will see you guys on Sunday. We thank you so much for tuning into the Bayou Blitz podcast. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. And until then, find your peace, spread love, practice positivity. We'll see you guys later.